Yo, what's going on? It's your boy, Big Wavy Roy Johnson here.
This is the professional Nathan Cruz.
Yo, this is Man Like Doris.
Hi, this is Tom Thurber.
This is Benji.
This is the Asian sensation Kanji.
This is the Nightmare Fuel Hassan Malone.
This is Joe Rage, the heavyweight classic.
This is Mad Dog O'Doherty.
This is Tonga.
I'm the Breaker, Kyle Kingsley.
This is the infamous Cameron Solis, and you're listening
You're listening to
Broken but Glorious.
Broken but Glorious.
To Broken but Glorious podcast, because like me, you are head to toe a pro.
Okay. Hello and welcome to my Brit Rest Journey on bbgwrestling.com. I'm Chris Lappin and delighted to be joined on the line by the hit woman of British wrestling, the Crimson Killshot Artemis. How you doing this evening, Artemis?
Not too bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, really good. But I'm at the back of the house, so just so the sun's just on it all day, and there's nothing you can do to cool this room down.
Well, we've
Everyone.
just had cool wind all day. It's been really nice.
It was quite cool this morning, but this afternoon it's been hot again. So I'm good. Yeah, well, a few days off work after this. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the bus strike stopped, so we don't have to get trains everywhere. We can get the bus tomorrow, and I can walk. I don't have to walk to work. Last 4 weeks, it's like an hour walk. It's like 2 hours there and back.
Gosh. Yeah, I've had it this week. I was meant to go into the office, and I sort of forgot that the trains were striking at the end of this week.
Yeah.
I left it, and then I looked today and was like, oh, I'm not going to make it into the office this week then. I'm just working from home this week.
Yeah. So it's been about a year since Brit Rest return. How's it been for you? So.
Well, yeah, no, it's been really good. It's my first year really on the scene. I debuted in December last year.
Oh wow.
So I am still very new on the scene. But it's been really good. It's for me, since lockdown sort of started easing last year, a training school nearby had opened up properly and had a new unit, and it gave me the opportunity to really commit to training and getting to where I wanted to get.
Yeah. How much did you do before lockdown?
So I trained. So I started originally at Eve Academy, which is Bethnal. It was in Bethnal Green at the Resistance Gallery, and a bit at Lucha and stuff. But because I was having to travel in and out of London, it was not particularly convenient. It was expensive. So I didn't sort of train regularly, and towards the end of 2019. Yeah, it must be 2019. I took a few months off entirely as well, because I at the time I was working in probation service, and I was just completely mentally exhausted by the time I got to the weekend. So I was just like, I'm not traveling. So I had a few months off as well. And I just started getting back to training in March 2020.
Oh no.
I remember the last session they sort of messaged out like, we're going to run it if people want to come. About 2 or 3 of us or something that actually went along, but it's a bit of a strange time.
Yeah, we're getting sent home from work, and so we're like, oh, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I changed jobs as well, like literally March time, 2020. So I did 3 days doing a handover in a different office.
Yeah.
And then I did my first day in my proper office. And that evening, Boris was like, no, you got to work from home now. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, fine.
I did like the first couple of months because they couldn't figure out how to get our phones connected to our laptops, so we couldn't talk to the public for weeks. I was like, oh, that's so good. Couldn't answer any phone calls. So,
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
It's back. It's just been good to get training properly, and obviously I've had my first matches as well.
It's been a steep rise then, 'cause you've been main events and shows, and now you've got a championship next month.
Yeah, it's it's been really good. Like, it's been unexpected as well. I think towards the end of last year, before I debuted, which was Square One with UBW, I remember being told they was like, we're going to put you on a show before the end of the year. I was just like, what? Sorry, what? Just like completely imposter syndrome. And then it was like I did my debut and I did a couple of shows, and it was like, oh, I'm just going to stick just to UBW for now. I'm not going to go anywhere else. Of course, then it's like you get chances to go, so you're like, oh, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Like, yeah, nearly a year in and sort of been a little bit all over the place already, which is really nice. And I'm just really grateful for the opportunities, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, I started wrestling training in May. Wish I didn't wait till I was 40. So, but a local school opened up, and so me and my 17-year-old son were like, "Oh, we have to go." So,
yeah, definitely.
But it's fun.
I feel like that. It's like, because I still feel so new in and it's I'm turning 30 this year, and it's like I'm training with people that are they're almost like veterans, and then multiple years below, like lower than me in age. You're just like, it's really weird. Like,
yeah, I'm training with teenagers who've been training for like 6 years, and they're brilliant. And you're like,
they're like, oh, I've been wrestling for like 10 years, and you're trying to do the maths of how old they were when they started. You're just like, oh, I really wish I'd started sooner, but
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd started sooner, but yeah, but it's fun. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get to a match level, but yeah, it's really enjoying it.
It's a great journey to go on, to be fair, just the learning from your first bump.
That's the one thing I'm not great at. I can take it. If somebody slams me, I can do a bump, but if they say go do a back bump, I'm like, my brain just doesn't let me just jump on my back yet. So, but,
an odd sensation. I think like I always found it easier to do a front bump than a back bump, just like when there's nothing there, because it's like you've got to react to something that's not happening.
Yeah,
I think that's the hardest bit. You're just like, oh, just throwing myself on my back. Whereas like when you're in a match and you get hit with something, you just do it.
Yeah, because I can take a suplex, and I can take a body slam. I took a snap mirror at the weekend, and it's just I can do them. I can do a flip bump, but just falling backwards, and my brain just doesn't let me do it.
Yeah,
so it's something that's like the one thing I need to get out of my head. But
yeah, like the benefit of starting younger, I think there's slightly less protective instinct built in. Whereas it's like when at the point I started, I was like, well, I've got to go to my day job on Monday, so it's like I can't really like break my neck.
I couldn't walk for 4 days after the first training session. I just said, I can't remember last time I did a squat. And they asked you to do rolls. I was like, I haven't done a front roll since I was about 10, so it's about 30 years since I've done a front roll. Yeah, but they've got better over the last couple of weeks. So,
it's weird because you think like, I definitely know I can do a front roll because I used to be able to do them, but I haven't done one since like 10. So that first one, you're like, huh?
Yeah. I don't think I don't remember ever doing a back roll, but I can do them. Like, yeah, I couldn't do a front roll and get up for a while, but I can do that now. So yeah, it's just all these, just all these things you don't think about when you just watch wrestling. It's like,
I think I was saying, like, since I started training, going to watch wrestling like as a fan, I see stuff totally different. Yeah,
same.
I'll watch it and I'll just be watching this match and there'll be all this impressive stuff, and then somebody will do a good shoulder roll. Like, oh, it was a great roll, that. Like, it's a really different perspective.
Yeah, well, sure. That's a good lockup to start the match. Yeah. Never noticed a lockup ever before 3 months ago. Yeah. So how did you get involved with like team memes? Because that's like quite a high profile team to get involved with. So
I think I got approached. It must have been December last year. I think Memes was looking at putting the faction together. So I'd had my debut match. This was the second show I was on, which was I think about a week later. And he sort of said he was like putting something together, and because he was doing this run as a heel. He'd been a face previously.
When I heard he was saying heel, I just couldn't imagine how it's going to be. He was so good as a face.
He does great. I think it's a really different take on the character. It's quite an interesting way to go.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. So he said about it, and I was like, I mean, for me, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Like, it gives you a chance to sort of get involved. Slightly lower pressure, like coming out I think I've interfered in probably more matches than anyone else. I was saying, like, I think my appearances at Square One and UBW this year, where I'm not on the card, but I'm involved somewhere, like probably more than anyone has ever been. I just come out and, you know, cause havoc and mischief and hit people with chairs and things. So it's quite nice to be like sort of picking up on stuff. You get to watch what the others are doing and how they're planning matches and sort of learn from that side of things without the pressure of like going out and doing it yourself. So it's just been a really good experience, and obviously Memes has now sort of taken it to other promotions as well. So we were introduced at United a few months ago. I can't remember. This year sort of blended into one a little bit. But Adonis had his match on that show, and Memes introduced the meme team, and we're going back there this weekend. So we're going to be tagging, and I think Memes has got a singles match as well. So yeah, I think it's been good, and we're also now at UK PW. So Memes and Adonis are going this weekend, and I'm going along in November as well. But we did a few shows over the summer where they had like outdoor shows on high streets and stuff. Which really bizarre like experience. I remember like wrestling in Gillingham High Street. I think, oh, that'll be all right. You can just, you know, had a bit of play around with different things, but the crowd was huge. It was honestly like one of the biggest crowds I've wrestled in front of. It's just on a high street. But no, it was a lot of fun. They were really welcoming. So and we're getting back there with the meme team.
That sounds fun.
Well, yeah.
So you've already given away your age, but this usually gives away your age. So who's your favourite wrestler growing up?
Sorry, my favourite wrestler growing up. I'll tell you, it's hard to say because I didn't really watch wrestling growing up. I watched it for a short amount of time, probably around 2000-ish. So it's like I remember, you know, watching The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and like they were the big sort of the main guys. And my brother was big into wrestling, but I sort of kind of quickly sort of lost interest in it as well. There were, you know, at the time there wasn't really any women wrestling. China would occasionally make an appearance, but not often. And it's just like
even when there was women's wrestling, it wasn't women's wrestling. It was a bra and panties match or a lingerie match or
lingerie,
some type of dancing match or a pillow match or something.
And I was a right tomboy as a kid as well. Like I had two older brothers, and I'd be out playing football with them. And so it's like as a younger girl, seeing these like glam girls on telly, and they weren't wrestling. They were, like you said, it was gimmick matches. It's not something that I connected with. So I lost interest, and then it was actually like I met my partner. We've been together 5.5 years now. And he watched wrestling. He'd got into predominantly, I think, New Japan was his main thing that he watched. And Progress was this massive thing at the time as well. Like obviously there's still a huge promotion in the UK, but it was around time where they were really like making waves, and you just couldn't get hold of tickets.
That's like 16, 17, 18. Huge.
It was just so hard to get tickets, and he managed to get tickets to, I think it was the 70s themed show, must have been the first one we went to. So he got tickets and he was like, "Do you fancy coming?" And I thought, well, I'm not doing anything else. So I went along, and it was just like, oh my God, this is like incredible. And it was like in my head, I had this perception of like watching WWE as a kid. And I just didn't think I'd be that into it. And there was a particular match I remember. It was Nina Samuels. They were wrestling under different names because it was 70s show, but it was Nina Samuels against Isla Dawn.
Oh wow.
And it was just like, I was like, oh my God, because she was like strong, and she was throwing each other around, and it was like, it wasn't like a gimmick match. They were wrestling. I was like, oh my God. So she was probably the wrestler I was first really a fan of, and coming back into wrestling. So it's a bit weird now because it's like I know her. It's like it's like fangirl over her, but she's a nice girl. So that was the first sort of wrestler I'd say was my favourite.
I've loved seeing the progression of women's wrestling in British over the last 5 or 6 years. Because when I started, if there was a women's match, it would usually be a multi-women's match, no storyline. Usually the championship match, but they'll throw 5 or 6 women into it.
Yeah.
Or just and it's usually right in the middle of the card or just before the break. So, but yeah, now it's usually 2 or 3, or there'll be a couple of intergender matches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, most of my matches I've been on teams with men against men,
Yeah.
or just in singles matches against men. I've had a couple of matches against other women, which is nice. I don't mind either way. But it's just nice. There's a lot more opportunities, I think, now for women entering the scene, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, look, like I said, I started training at Eve originally, and obviously they have all women's shows, and they are just phenomenal standard of what women's wrestling can be. So yeah.
Yeah, Eve's a show I've always wanted to go to. Just haven't had a chance to get down there yet. So it's like...
I think he's running a Thursday night one in a few weeks.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So what prompted you to don the tights and get in the ring yourself?
So okay, again, it's a bit of a weird one because I had a bit of a theatre background. Like I was growing up as a kid, I did am jams and musicals, and the showy sort of side of stuff. And I'd done the only sort of sport growing up I did was like karate. I didn't really like sport, and then as an adult, I loved sport and I loved lifting weights, and it's like sort of transition from one thing to the other. And it was like, oh, this is like a perfect combination of both.
Yeah.
But at the time, like the first time I sort of started watching it, I was like, I could never do it because I had a really weird thing about people touching my neck. So they're going to do a lockup.
Yeah.
Literally immediately somebody touching your neck, and I was like, I wouldn't be able to do it. And then again, my partner's dad, he'd seen something in Time Out. Eve will run in this free taster session. So I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to go along and see what happens. And it was just like, went to one session and was hooked. It was such I think Eve, I'm glad I started at Eve because I think it can be quite intimidating as a girl going into a locker room of boys. I mean, where I train now, I've never had an issue. It's a great environment. But when I first started, I didn't really have any confidence. And Eve is a really good place where they kind of just teach you to take up space as much as anything else, and be loud and just sort of, as well as obviously learning the wrestling as well.
Yeah.
So it was a really good place to start for me.
Yeah, we'll be in a bit quiet in training the other week, so they made us do animal noises whenever you're punched. Like if you're throwing the punch, you're a cow, and if you're receiving it, you're a cat. Just because we weren't loud enough, so it's taught us to be louder.
I did a session at Play Fight earlier this year, and the warm-up session was like running the ropes across each other. So two people running the ropes, and you had to just scream the whole time running the ropes, and it was a competition about who could be loudest. It's like running the ropes gasses you out anyway.
Yeah.
It's like doing that whilst also screaming. I remember just finishing and being like, oh, totally gassed. But it's just that thing of just being like, just be loud, just get it out.
That's what I didn't really like about the early training sessions, because we'll just gas us out with all this fitness stuff, and then we have to do all the technical stuff. I was like, my brain's dead. But as it's gone on, I understand why we do all the training stuff at the beginning. It's like, whoever invented squats is evil. Burpees are evil. Just,
They're great. They are great for building conditioning. Like I hate burpees, but especially in wrestling, they're so transferable. So it's like, this is good for me.
No, yeah, the one where you have to fall and get up and fall and get up into fight stance. But I can see why it's very useful now.
It's important, like when you're 10 minutes into a match, and then you've got your finishing moves and your finishing sequences, and I don't know, if you're a babyface, you've got to fire up and run, and if you're a heel, you've got bump and feed, and you're doing that when you're already 10 minutes in. So it's like you're gassed, and you've got to still be safe, and it's important.
I couldn't have done this time last year. I had a bit of a mental breakdown earlier this year, and then off that, I've got these sorts of a head else.
Mm.
Got it's starting to get into shape. I was like 17.5 stone. I'm 15.5 stone now, and
Fair enough.
gym and wrestling training, better mental. But
I find it it's helped. Like, I mean, this week, like with work, I'm just having a particularly busy week. So it's like yesterday, I was like, I've had such a long week, and somebody said it's only Tuesday. But it's like I went to training in the evening. It was like I was a little bit sort of mentally tapped out, but you get into it and you sort of just like you get into what you're doing with your body instead, and you sort of get out of your head. So I find it a really good way. The gym the same way. If I've got a workout, sometimes I've had like I'll get PBs where it's like I've had the worst stressful day, and it just goes into being like I'm going to lift this big ass. So
yeah, I've never got to a fitness level to enjoy the gym before. I've always stopped before because I've never been fit enough where the gym doesn't suck. So, but right, so with you not having that particular favorite wrestler growing up, so did you like try and mold your character around, gimmick around somebody?
Not really. Like I've done a fair amount of sort of tape studying and stuff since training, but not really. I mean, I started going to some sessions with Paul Ash at Spell. And it was around the time where it was like trying to put a character together and sort of think about influences and things like that, and I was a little bit lost with it because I sort of had all these like little ideas but couldn't sort of mesh them together into anything that would be cohesive. And he asked me some questions and stuff about, you know, who I liked as, you know, I gave Nina Samuels as an example, and Jordan Grace is another one who I really like, and he was asking me about my background, which is where the hit women come from. So I trained in karate for about 10 years or so growing up, and I got my black belt. And he was like, oh, so you've got legit background, like martial arts. He was like, right, so you need to be someone that's like trained, and this is where the sort of the hit woman idea came from. And then it was sort of like running with it from there. But in terms of like movesets and stuff, again, I mentioned obviously I like going to the gym, I like lifting heavy things. So it's kind of going for sort of some of those bigger power moves and being not necessarily looking like I'm necessarily going to be lifting everyone up and stuff, but then surprising everyone by doing it, and sort of being a little bit of a strong woman kind of thing. So yeah, it sort of went from there, and it was developing a moveset. I mean, it's still very much a work in progress. It's you know, I've tried to do mood boards and things to try and sort of get my thoughts in line. Sometimes you have like so many different like thoughts about what you want to do and things, and it's like trying to get that all together. And sometimes it'll be somebody else will see a move and they'll be like, oh, I think this would really suit your character. And I've been trying to use some influences actually from like martial arts, which you don't necessarily see so often in wrestling. So some takedowns and things that I do that are actually just legitimate takedowns. So you're going down, like whether you jump or not, I can get you down kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a developing thing. I mean, the hit woman thing is it's been really good to give me a focus as I'm starting and try and emulate some of that stuff. And I've not had to do too many promos, which is great because she's not a particularly verbal character.
We did our first promo class a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh no, I was dreading it, but it wasn't quite as bad. They just give you a topic you have to talk about for a minute. I was like, oh, after 45 seconds, like, I have stuff to say.
Like, I've not had to do too many. And I think sort of she's a character that sort of she speaks with her face more than her mouth and her muscles as well. It's quite, again, it's that interesting dynamic in the meme team where you've got Memes who's so like charismatic and he's very outgoing. Adonis is gobby as well to the crowd, but Artemis is kind of like the legitimate muscle behind all that. So it's quite an interesting dynamic in the trio. But I mean, I'm going through a bit of a phase at the minute where I'm thinking about evolving it on a little bit more, which probably will give me more scope to do things like promos and things like that. But watch this space, I guess, for that.
Yeah. So where did the Artemis name come from?
Well, I'm a bit of a history nerd. I like history. And at the time that I was developing the character, I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
Still based in Greece and in Greek mythology and stuff. And there's the daughters of Artemis and the temple of Artemis and things like that. But it was that kind of thing of because she's the hit woman and Artemis is the goddess of the hunt. She's obviously got other things as well, but I was like, oh, that could work really well. And one of my pet peeves as a fan going to shows is I mean, no disrespect to anyone else, because I'm sure they've got their own influences for their names and things, but I'm so bad with names. So bad with names, just generally on a day-to-day basis.
Same.
So it's like you go to a show and you'll see someone that you think is really great, and then you won't be able to remember their name because it's really like generic first name, generic surname. And it's all the names are sort of almost semi-similar, or they're very real names, and they don't sort of stand out enough. It's the different names that are more memorable, and sometimes it's like you remember somebody on a show because you remember their name, but actually you remember somebody else's moves more. So I kind of wanted a name that was a little bit more memorable and a little bit different. And yeah, I also came across, I was, like I said, I'm a bit of a history nerd and playing that game, and it just sort of seemed like the right fit as well. So that's where the name came from.
Oh, was there any other names in like what was version 1 of ultimately of the character?
There was, so before I actually got on the Hitwoman thing, I had a note on my phone that was just filled with what I'd call like just gobbledygook out of my brain, like stuff that I come across and stuff that I think might work. And there were a couple of names that sort of I'd come across that were kind of unusual but nothing that had really stuck. And it was when I come across the Artemis one, I was like, oh, and it was like it was an instant like, oh, I like it. But it's like I feel like I mean, it might be a good thing for me, it might not be, but I found out afterwards, obviously NASA at the minute are aiming to get to the moon again, and their current like program is all called Artemis, and I was like,
yeah,
well,
amazing.
people might cross my page while they're searching for NASA. It might be a good thing.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm struggling with name. I was like, I don't want to just be called Chris. so I like Jareth because I'm a huge fan of the Labyrinth.
Yeah,
but I'm not cool as David Bowie.
Is anyone as cool as David Bowie, to be fair?
Yeah, that's the bit. I think once I kind of develop the character, maybe the name will jump out at me after that. So.
That's the thing. I think the name, I found the name after I found the character rather than the other way around. Yeah, I just struggle with names so badly. So I was like, I want something that's like different. I kind of want like the idea of the one word name as well, rather than first name, surname. And with the Hitwoman thing as well, it's like, is it a code name? Is it a real name? Nobody knows.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you got 2 huge matches coming up for UBW. So you got your grudge match. The 28th or 21st?
That's 28th. Yeah.
28th, yes.
28th. It's me and Adonis, so we tagged together as the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And obviously on behalf of the meme team.
Was that just a coincidence you're both having Greek names, or was it just...
It was, yeah. It was I think it was like literally on my first show, and it was like we discussed the idea of having a tag team literally on the first show that I was on, and I think like our sort of looks are quite sort of similar in different ways, and yeah, he's Adonis and I'm Artemis, and so it's just like got different. So yeah, it was just a coincidence, but now it's like it's worked quite well. And then the tag team, the Odyssey, that actually wasn't my idea. It did come from the video game. That was Chris that suggested that, and I was just like, yeah, I'm on board. Works quite well. So yeah, we're facing Spike, obviously, where he got kicked back out of the meme team at the last show. He wasn't pulling his weight, so
No.
and he's tagging with Hugo Bloom, who I've faced before in a tag match. Actually, it's my second match at UBW. Was I was tagging with Crowley in place of Clementine, and we were against the heavyweight Heartbreakers. So it was Hugo with Brad.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully it'll be a good match. And then yeah, the following week actually, I've got a singles match for the Square One title against Leo Edwards.
So was it Leo Edwards who beat Adonis for the championship?
Yeah.
I think that's like the week after I interviewed him or something as well, because I put it all up as the champion, and I think he lost it. Like, I was like, oh.
That was a great match. I have to say, it was like, that's one of my matches of the year. It was just like carnage, because it was like no DQ, so they had weapons, and I got hit with a bin, so it was a bit of a chaotic match. And Adonis ended up bleeding, and I think our first aider was sort of going a bit spare. We actually had 2 people in that show that ended up bleeding. It was just like one of those weird things. It's like not happened at all, and then all of a sudden 2 on the same show. But you know, they're all good afterwards, so that's what counts. But yeah, so I'm gonna get that Square One title back.
Is it is it like a ranking system, or is it just like, I don't know how this is like, how did you become number 1 contender?
No, I mean, with other, certainly with the main title, I think they tend to have number 1 contenders, or they have people that are in contention. With the Square One title, it's a little bit more free, and they sort of think, okay, you're up for a title shot. I think the Square One title originally, when Square One started, it was a much smaller local show, in a local village hall, and it was just a chance for trainees to get some matches under their belts. And it's obviously grown into its own sort of its own show in its own right now, and the titles come along with that. So yeah, there isn't anything particular that says you're the number 1 contender right now. It's just about, challenging for it when you feel ready for it. So
yeah, cool. I'll put ticket information in the description if anybody wants to come along to the shows. But yeah, they both look like really great shows.
Thank you.
So looking forward, do you have like a wish list of who you want to like face for the rest of the year, or do you?
I'll be honest, I do and I don't. Like, there's certain people that I want to face. An example is Smashing Mike. So
yes,
I had the fortune of facing him, obviously, in a tag match a few weeks ago. Me and Adonis faced Westside Heat, and honestly, it's like that's my favourite match that I've been involved in. I actually got injured in that match.
Wow.
I had a bit of a funny landing and sprained my wrist, which is still not quite 100%, like 3-4 weeks later, which is sort of annoying me now. But it's such a good match. But it's, Mike is charisma, and he's like the hype man for everybody in British wrestling. Like, he is just an absolute bubble of energy, and I've done a bit of training with him as well. And we want to have a match. So if any promoters want to book us, we would welcome it. And obviously, like, I would like to face Nina. It'd almost just bring it to a nice little sort of full circle for me, I think, if I was to face Nina Samuels somewhere. But I'm open to wrestling anyone, really. Like, some of the matches that I've had that have been sort of surprisingly, like, what I've enjoyed has not necessarily been what I think I'll enjoy, kind of thing, if that makes sense. So another one of my favourite matches that I've had this year was at a Square One show. It was a 3 versus 3, so it was Meme Team against Sassy Bear Clarence
Oh yes.
with Josh Spicer and J.K. Roberts. And it was kind of they'd all been wronged. They'd all lost to Adonis, but they'd been, wronged by us in the process.
It's a bit she goes, I beat you, and I beat you, and I beat you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like they teamed up against us, and it's one of those things like 3 versus 3. When you get to like multi-man matches like that, it can just be absolute chaotic, and you want it to be chaotic, but in the right way. You don't want it to just lose all structure. It needs to still tell its story, but it's just keeping it reined in to some extent without it going completely mad. So I was a bit apprehensive when I was like, oh my god, there's so many people, but it went so well, and it was honestly one of my favorite matches.
It's mad how that room's set out, because you come out and then all the crowds over there, so you see the crowd, but from the camera, because the rings are there, but then it turned around because you were all got chased off into the crowd. I was like, there's hundreds of people there.
I think we tend not to have a hard cam set up as well. Part of it is we have quite a short time window to set up for those shows. But I remember the first time we got there and we were like, where are we putting the ring? Are we putting the ring in the middle? And it's like, it's too narrow to put any seats on the sides.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're better off just putting it at one end and having it all one-sided, which again, like where you've got trainees coming out and having their first shows and their first matches, I think that's quite a nice feature to have a crowd on one side and you can just focus that. Selling to one side and trying to interact in one direction. It's just like one less thing to sort of think about in some ways when you're at that stage. But yeah, I think there was like a dive out. There was a couple of dives, and there were those mad moments. But yeah, and that's another person I'd like to face in singles. Actually, is Spicer. We train quite a lot, and quite often when I'm learning new ways to throw people around, he's my target of that training. He gets thrown around quite a lot. But I would quite like to face him in a singles. I think we'd have quite a fun match. But yeah, I mean, like I've been fortunate. Like I said, I've been to quite a few promotions already in my first year, which I didn't expect. I certainly didn't plan for. I was thinking I'd just keep local and then maybe go for outside promotions in my second year, but that's not happened. So like I'm just grateful to get booked and get the opportunities and get the reps in and develop more. So yeah, I just enjoy wrestling.
Cool. Do you want to move on to the creator card out, the people you worked with?
Oh yeah. Hang on, because I had to think about this. I was like, oh.
It's just a play with your mates.
Yeah.
That's what people do. So, okay. All right. So if you're a promoter for the day, promoting the event, so use a wrestler you've either worked with, trained with, wrestlers are associated to you in some way. If I give you a match type, you tell me who put that match.
Yeah, go for it.
As it's your show, every match can be 3-way, 4-way, 5-way, intergender. Throw a stupid stipulation on if you want. Yeah, your show.
Myself to like, if it was singles, like 3 per match. That's enough. 'Cause, like, otherwise, I'd just have everyone like in the everyone from Brit Rest.
Cool.
Squeeze them into every 8-man match.
Anyway, the amounts of people go. My opening match is a battle royal with everybody I haven't put on the rest of the show. Right, so who'll be in your opening contest at the crowd excited?
My opening one would be Harrison Leon and Tony Sin.
Yes.
So trained with both these guys. Actually, I think I was perhaps at Tony Sin's maybe his first session. I think Harrison had been to 1 or 2 before, but so I've seen both of them like develop and grow, and their chemistry and banter with each other in the training environment is just something to behold anyway.
I think I saw them I watched one of their matches. They had a carnival match recently. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think they've faced each other on. I've sort of that
It
was
was in a field. I'm
yeah,
assuming it was a
I
carnival.
was on that show. What one was that? I feel like it was in Connecticut or something. So I was there last year as well. But so yeah, they had a match with each other, and then after the interval, they came out, and I tagged with Harrison, and Spicer tagged with Tony, and we had a tag match as well. And Tony had sort of taken his shoes off after his singles, his boots, and then his music started playing, and he'd not got time to put his boots on. And the ring had been out. Bear in mind that the heat that we've had, it was weekend, I think, the weekend where we had, like, the Monday and Tuesday was the hottest we've ever had on record. So it was hot, and that the black canvas on the ring has been out in the sun all day. We had to set up really early, and he's had to go out there in his bare feet. Oh, it's just like the funniest thing, just seeing him run to the ring in his bare feet. It was something to behold. But yeah, like these two, I think I'm hoping that they get booked together in a match soon, because it needs to happen.
I'm in negotiations with Tony about coming on. So yeah, Harrison was on a couple of weeks ago. He was
Yeah.
A comedy style match.
So I'm going to go for a tag match in the comedy style match. So team number one is a team that I think have only been seen at a She-Evolution show that I was on. And they are called Smile and Panic. And they are essentially characters based on, like, when you're an emo, like, do you know when that emo phase that you go through as a teenager? And their match, again, they were just phenomenal. The character work in it is great. And I would put them against, again, that, like, I think they're at Riot Cabaret next week. They've been seen in a few places. Big Dick Energy. Big Dick and Little Dick. So it's drag wrestlers.
Yes, I follow them on Instagram.
So again, I've trained with all four of these wrestlers. So Smile and Panic were both at Eve when I used to train down there at Eve, and Big Dick Energy I've since had the pleasure of training with at Play Fight. But just, I think the four of them as well, with their chemistry with each other, I think comedy would just ensue. I mean, definitely individually as tag teams, they get a lot of comedy. But yeah, I'd like to see that match personally.
Your women's title match?
Women's title, I've gone for a 3-way. So in it I would put Clementine. Massive bundle of energy, just immediately puts a smile on your face when she comes out.
I love the contrast between her and Crowley when they team together. He's such a his current persona is such a twat, and then she's so happy. It's just like
and they make it work. It's like, it's wonderful.
Love that video where they come up with their tag team name. It was hilarious.
I think his gear as well at the minute has her picture on his bum, which is just a nice feature. So yeah, if you Clementine, I'd also put Evie Madden in. So she's great. She's like up and coming. She took a break recently, and she's coming back, and she's so fashionable as well. Like, I wish I had her sense of fashion. I'm useless with that sort of thing, and she's brilliant. But she's great to train with as well, and really supportive. And I'd put the menacing heel of Rhea O'Reilly in against them too as well. Rhea obviously used to train Eve, so she was probably her and Greg Burridge were my first wrestling trainers. And she's a big advocate for the people that have trained at Eve as well. She really tries to get us booked places. So, you know, as a person, she's very nice. As a wrestler, she's very nasty. It's great. So I think that would be quite an interesting match.
Cool. Then a mid-card title match. So you're like two workhorses.
Mid-card title. At the minute, I've gone for another women's match actually here.
Oh, cool.
So I've gone for Rain Leverkusen. So she's quite new on the scene again.
Yes, the name has come up a few times recently. I need to check her out.
And she's phenomenal. Like, she's just one of these people I think just gets wrestling. Like, it's just her body gets it, her brain gets it. She'll be going places. Like, she's a real talent. And I'd put her against Rita Slayworth. So Rita, I think she's been at Pro Wrestling East, and she was recently actually at the Ragnarok performances at Edinburgh Fringe as well. I know she was in that cast, which is great. But again, so she was at Eve originally. I think she trained Play Fight now. And she's just one of those people where she's just brilliant. Like she really is, and I don't think she probably understands how good she is. But she's not had the opportunities, I think, to get as much experience on the scene. So it's like I'd definitely put her on any card.
Definitely.
And get her going, because again, I think she's got so much potential to go places.
That sounds fun. What about a hardcore Extreme Rules style match? So this can be a comedy 24/7 thing, right up to deathmatch. You can whatever you want to do.
So hardcore, I've gone for a 3-way again. Partly that match that I already described, which is Adonis versus Leo, but I've thrown Josh Spicer into the mix as well. And again, part of this is the three of them and their chemistry outside of the ring. And putting that into a ring, I imagine it would just be like chef's kiss.
Yeah, that
and
sounds
then
fun.
throw in weapons and
That sounds your tag team title match?
Tag title, I've put in Westside Heat again.
Yes.
I know, like Smashing Mike could have gone in like any of these matches.
Yeah.
But I thought no, tag, the Toner as well is just he's so talented. It's unreal. And they look incredible as well. Just brilliant. And I've put them against the lads. This is a tag team that I was introduced to sort of fairly recently. I sort of hadn't heard of them, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm seeing them everywhere. And they're just, again, it's like they've got the comedy, and I think Westside Heat can bring a bit of comedy as well. But they're also just like really good and really solid. So I think that would be interesting. I think Westside Heat would end up being the heels in that match, though. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting one.
Definitely. And then it's your main event.
Main event, I've gone for Charles Crowley against Mr. Tommy Kyle.
Yes, that'd be good.
Tommy Kyle has been my main coach, I guess, for the last sort of year, well, since May. And he is just
he's somebody who seemed to lockdown was good for him. He seems to have got came out of it in such great shape and seemed the best, just super focused. Yeah,
absolutely. Like he, as far as I'm aware, he's one of the people that really used lockdown. He was like, right, I want to come out of this better than I was going in. And he was using the ring down at square one all the time. Obviously, like I said, is come out with a new look, a clear idea of the character and everything. But he is one of those people with like wrestling, like especially like tech wrestling. Seeing him work in the ring is just like, how? What is this? And he just sort of, he's just like, I just want to try this thing, and then he'll just like, like, oh, okay. So he's a proper talent. I think it's really good to see him starting to get booked in more and more places and get that recognition, because he is really just very good.
Yeah, he's somebody where you need to start getting up north a bit more. I think you need to.
I think it can be a bit difficult just breaking that barrier into. There's a bit of a north-south divide. I don't think it's intentional, but obviously it's easier to book people that are nearer to you, and I'm sure in terms of promoters it's cheaper in terms of expenses and things as well. But I had the opportunity to go up to Batley, which is as far away as I've been, which is great. It's up near Leeds. But I think it is quite hard. I think wrestlers do look for those opportunities, but they're quite hard. And
I'm surprised, because at Wrestle Island they have like Kyle Kingsley and David Grant and Hustle Malone.
Yeah.
So they come up.
I asked if I was free this weekend to go with him there, but I'm already booked, so I couldn't go.
Yes.
Hopefully
I'll be there on Sunday. So.
Yeah, I'll be there in the future. And yeah, obviously Charles Crowley, he's one that since lockdown has, I think during lockdown there was a bit of almost like a talent draw into NXT, and it left gaps in the industry, and he is one of those people that's been able to just go straight in and fill one of those gaps, and he's so different from anyone else on the scene. And he is full on character work. Obviously he can wrestle as well, but the character is what really gets him over.
Definitely.
And he's so generous with his time. He's like, again, he's so hardworking. Like all the things that he's involved in within wrestling and without outside of wrestling, he is just working all the time. But he's still so generous with his time. Like, you know, he sent me things to help me with my character development and offered time for training and to share that knowledge and support and advice and stuff. And it's you just have to like appreciate those people in wrestling. It's so nice. So yeah, they're both people that have like had a big influence on me over the last year and have sort of helped me to develop both in wrestling and character and stuff, and they're both so deserving of recognition. So definitely up there, main event.
Definitely. That'd be a great card. I'd like to watch that card.
Yeah. Could be carnage.
Cool. So we've discussed some of your upcoming matches. Where else can people see you in the near future?
Yeah, so this month, my next show is on Sunday the 21st at United, which is Oxford based, and it's in a brewery and there's good beer.
Yeah.
So I think Adonis's family are planning to get down there and drink the bar dry. So it should be a good show. It was such a good environment last time that we were there, so looking forward to that. And it's going to be a tag team, I believe, me and Adonis. So it should be good. Next Friday, the 26th of August, I'm at Vortex. So I'm in the tournament to crown the first women's champion. And it's a semi-final match against Amira. So again, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a interesting one. I think the card on the show, again, it's great people in it. So
she's somebody who's came out of lockdown and she's just went
skyrocketed. Yeah, brilliant. But again, she's great in the locker room as well. She's so friendly. And then
when she comes out, she's the bad bitch, and you're like, well,
yeah,
you're so lovely.
And then I've got 2 UW shows. So one at the end of August 28th, which is in Welling, and that's the tag team with Adonis. And then on the 4th of September, and that one is in UBW's home, really, at Biggleswade.
Yes.
So it's the home venue, and I think there's like a ladder match on that show, but I think that's going to be a fun card as well. So all the links and everything on my socials as well if people want tickets.
Yes. Yeah, I'll put tickets in the description below. Do you want to promote your social media before we go?
Yeah, I see. I should have come prepared with what all my social media is. On Facebook, I'm under the Crimson Killshot Artemis, because apparently Artemis is a really common name on Facebook, so I had to add something that made it easier. I think on Twitter and Instagram, I'm PW Artemis or Artemis PW. I might have to check.
They'll be correct in the description below the interview.
I'm PW_Artemis on Instagram. And
Artemis P_PW on Twitter.
The other way around. Thank you.
Oh, so I've really enjoyed speaking today. I'd love to have you on again in the future. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'd be good to talk again in the future, definitely. Thank you for having me.